There's a lot of pre-planning that has to take place to get ready for each morning's show. This morning's guest does it for a living. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Carolina Cooling and Plumbing in Surfside Beach, behind Dick's Pawn Shop and below the water tower. We're focused on funeral pre-need planning. And we're visiting with the regional manager of Southland National Insurance, Al Burleson. Good morning,
Thank
Al.
you. Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's early.
It is 7 a.m. on a Friday morning. I hope you weren't out too late last night.
No, I did good.
Check with your planner there and make sure we can get you in early.
Right.
Thanks so much for coming in. Do you know the Surfside Beach area pretty well?
Oh, yeah. I am a native of Charlotte, but actually my mother-in-law lived in Surfside Beach for 25 years or so. So, plus I've traveled down here for years.
So this is old hat.
Oh, yeah. Enjoy this part of the world.
Carolina Cooling and Plumbing's been here for a heck of a long time.
Yeah, I've seen their signs in their trucks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How exciting. So you're based in Charlotte now, Al?
That is correct. Based in Charlotte, and I traveled the two Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina.
Boy, you must know every nook and cranny of your vehicle
I don't
pretty
buy
dang
many.
well.
I don't buy many maps. I seem to know the way.
Is that from birth, or is that just from having been in a car a long time?
I haven't been in the car. A lot of windshield time, Greg.
A lot of windshield time. How exciting. What prompted that opportunity to get in with Southland National Insurance, Al?
Well, I was selling pre-need for a living in the North Carolina area for several different funeral homes. Southland National came to me, and they were looking for a regional manager for this area. Mm-hmm. That was the good news. The bad news was they were just establishing the Carolinas, so I had not so much a luxury, but I started with no accounts and no income for the company. So the first several years, it was challenging at best.
Mm-hmm. So, and you've been with Southland National?
Almost 10 years now.
Is that right, Al? Wow.
So,
that's tremendous. Had you actually ever worked in a funeral home?
Yes, I have. Worked in a funeral, helped with funerals and whatever. Mostly my career is in the pre-need end, but I've always worked outside, working out of the funeral home.
Right.
So,
when someone hears pre-need, that sounds like it could be applicable to lots of different things, but as it relates to the funeral home industry, what exactly is a pre-need?
A pre-need is when a consumer comes in and wants to go ahead and pre-plan their service, and it gives them the luxury of picking out exactly what they want, how they want it, and the cost of it, which is very, very important. What we find in the funeral business, Greg, is if children have a set amount of insurance money coming in, they feel like that's their budget to spend. When they forget that the widow or whomever's left behind still has bills to pay and still has cost. So by pre-planning, the mom and dad or whoever can go ahead and set that, and that way the children don't have to worry about it. It's prepaid. It's all taken care of. Mm-hmm. Actually, they don't have to show up to the funeral home until the day of the service.
Is that right? So it's a seamless transaction between Southland National or any other insurance provider
between
here?
The funeral home. What Southland National does is the funeral home cannot keep this money if they go in and pre-plan. We hold the money, and we take care of it at time of death. Then the funeral home would contact us. We would send the money to the funeral home and take care of everything. So seamless is a great word. The consumer, it would be very seamless.
How do folks make that decision? Where do they normally go to pre-plan for their funeral? If I was going to try to plan now down the road or plan for my parents?
That's an interesting question, because a lot of people ask. What you need to do is go to the funeral home of your choice. A lot of times it's where maybe your parents have been, or if you're new in town, this is a heavy transit area.
Right.
Go to someone you feel like you can trust and take care of your wishes. So go in ask the funeral director there if you can talk about pre-planning. He or she will show you any equipment you may want to see or whatever, and answer all the questions.
Right.
So,
tremendous. And that is virtually anyone in a funeral home. The funeral director would
that is
have
correct.
that.
Some funeral homes have dedicated pre-need people who
Mm-hmm.
specialize in that. Some funeral homes let their employees take care of it, the manager or whatever. So, but most of these people understand pre-need and how it works and how it can best fit the consumer.
Right, right. When folks hear pre-need, is it virtually synonymous to pre-planning?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
That
sure.
that may be more of a trade name for people in the funeral industry,
Right.
saying pre-need.
Okay,
so,
good.
But pre-planning.
We've seen that a lot of funeral homes will advertise pre-planning or advanced planning, and
Right.
of course helping to plan even
Yes.
afterwards, obviously after
Right.
the loss. What are some of the biggest advantages? Obviously, there must be a lot of advantages, Al. What are some of the biggest advantages, or the advantages that jump out most oftentimes of pre-planning?
The advantage is it gives the person who's doing the pre-need the option of doing it exactly like they want it.
Okay.
Because most funeral directors will tell you, we're not sure what mom or dad wanted. Dad may have said one night at the dinner table he was thinking about cremation, and they're torn between what to do and where to go and whatever. A lot of parents and children live apart now since we're in such a mobile society. The kids may come into town and not know where to go or who to go to or whatever. So it answers 1,000 questions that come up in that short period of time. If you sit down and think about it, a funeral director does the same thing a wedding planner does. A wedding planner has approximately 9 months. A funeral director has approximately 3 days to take care of the same details and whatever. So the advantage is you lock down all those details, everything is taken care of. Relieves both financial pressure
Right.
and strain on the family.
Sure. The advantage is you get more like a wedding planner.
Yes.
You're able to really plan well in advance, hopefully more than 9 months.
Right.
Hopefully it's many, many years
Many,
in
many
advance.
years.
Sure,
So-
sure. How about what you do, Al? When you're traveling around the Carolinas, do you have a set number of places you want to visit whenever you visit a community? Or are you calling well in advance? The funeral directors, their schedules must be pretty dang hectic. They don't have such a thing.
You can make appointments with funeral homes. That don't mean it's going to come true, because they may get a call in the middle of the night. They may be visiting with the family. So what I try to do is set a day to call on them, and if their schedule starts to change, and I try to be flexible.
Right.
So their business is to wait on the family first. Having worked in a funeral home, of course, I realize that they have to get that taken care of. So I just generally set up in an area and work around the area from that.
Even though this is a non-commercial show, share with us a little bit about Southland National Insurance,
Right.
its background. Of course, you've been with them right at a decade, but
Yes.
they've been around a little longer than
let's
that.
use 10 years, a decade.
Oh,
sounds-
yeah.
Southland National is, as insurance companies go, a fairly small insurance company. We're out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay.
We are dedicated to the pre-need business.
That's it.
We don't have agents anywhere other than in the funeral homes, and I use the word agents loosely. All our funeral directors have insurance license, so they can take care of pre-needs. We are owned by the largest independent bank in the United States.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
The largest independent bank in the U.S.
New South Federal out of Birmingham.
Okay.
So we're very, very financially
Solid.
independent.
Great.
Yes.
And
Yes.
independent.
So we, again, just focus on funeral homes. And we try to attend all the conventions to see all the changes in the funeral industry. That way we know, or try to feel that we can have the best products.
Right.
Southland National has several different products to fit different families.
Okay.
Some people come in and do their pre-planning, their pre-need, and write one check. Some families may have to do it over time. We
Sure.
offer several different programs where it can fit the consumer, the family, to whatever their financial needs are.
Tremendous.
So it gives them a great deal of flexibility to how they want to take care of it.
Right.
So,
Obviously, the parent company for Southland National is very strong and
Very,
financially
very strong,
independent
yeah.
and soluble. But where would my money go if I was in planning for, let's say, one of my parents?
right.
Where's my money actually going to go if I was to pay in a lump sum, or even if I was financing it over time, Al?
Right. Your money would go to Southland National. We would hold that money and till such time, and at time here again at time of death we would send it to the funeral home. All this is very tightly regulated by the
Yes.
state of South Carolina,
Right.
and so it's I'm trying to think of the right words. It's not something where you just put your money in a sock or a drawer somewhere.
Right.
We hold it and invest it until such time.
Okay. So Southland National Insurance is owned by a bank, but would there
Right.
be differences between an insurance trust and, let's say, a bank trust?
Yes, and that's a good point. The basic difference, if you do an insurance funded pre-need, you're not liable for the interest paid. In other words, you will not get a 1099
Okay.
at the end of the year. If you
Good.
do a bank trust pre-need, then someone is liable for that interest that is growing on that money. So we don't want any of our consumers or customers to have to pay tax on that money because a lot of our people are retired,
Right.
and they don't want any more hassles with taxes or whatever. So I don't think anybody wants to dance with the
No,
IRS unless
that's
they have to.
a very good point. Absolutely.
And all of our products, if you do a time pay, either have full insurance benefits on it. God forbid you die before it's paid off, then Southland National pays it off. So you kind of always use the example of driving down the bypass, 17 bypass, and driving in both lanes. In one lane, you're paying off your service. In the other lane, you have a little bit of insurance benefit there to take care of your service, just in case.
Okay, that's very good. Well, I want to talk about if a little bit about the funeral homes themselves, but just the mechanics there, Al. Walk us through the mechanics of how that would work, just to how y'all would interface with the funeral home. As you said, it should be seamless
Yes.
for the family member. If I've planned out something for one of my parents and obviously they pass away, how is that? How are the mechanics going to work between Southland National Insurance Company and Funeral Home A?
My job is to make sure I sit down with the owner, with the funeral directors, choose the correct program that he feels best will fit his families. He knows his clientele.
Right.
Some areas may be economically depressed, some areas may not be. So there's several different programs that they can choose to help the family.
Sure.
Once we establish that, we get them set up on our system. At such time, once that is done, we keep monitoring the funeral homes. That's my job, to go by and make sure everything is working right, make sure everything is in place. Southland National is very, very compliant, strict, and so I am always making sure that funeral director's license are updated, agent license are updated, everything is in line with the South Carolina laws and whatever. So once we get to that point, then their job is to interface with the family. So once they do a pre-need, they would take the paperwork, give the consumer a copy, send us a copy. We keep all of that in the files.
Sure.
At the end of every year, we send them a list of everyone that they have pre-needed with us.
Good.
And they have to go through a series of reports to make sure, some may have early deaths, some may have cancellations or lapses. So we are on top of it.
And there is a lot of regulation, which is great.
Yes.
Sure.
a great
dealing with
more
loved ones' money. Sure.
right. And we have to be regulated by the state insurance and also the Funeral Director Board and Consumer Affairs.
Sure.
So there are plenty of people watching. So I think if I had to make one point, whoever you pre-plan with, whatever funeral home you use, that your money is basically safe in the state of South Carolina.
That's wonderful, Al.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Folks can still make some plans outside of the state. If my parents are living in North Carolina,
Sure,
for instance,
and that's a frequent question. You know, what if I move, or what if I want to change locations or something?
Sure.
You can transfer these pre-needs. It's you don't have to go through a lot of paperwork. If you move from one state to the other, take your pre-need paperwork to, here again, funeral home of your choice.
Right.
Show them what you have, and they'll file it and follow their state laws or whatever. So
well, let's think about if funeral home A, if my mom really wanted to utilize funeral home A, and for some reason the funeral home decided to go ahead and close up, if they've been in business for years and we'd utilize them for the pre-need, is
Right.
that just as easy as transferring from state to state, or how would that work?
Yes, it's just as easy. Probably one of the funeral homes in the area would automatically take over those pre-plannings. If that was not the funeral home of your choice, Greg, then you have the option of taking that and putting it at a funeral home.
Right.
So more times than not, the funeral home receiving these pre-needs would send the families a letter,
Right.
letting them know where their pre-need is and that it is safe. So
Are there a lot of costs associated with transferring my pre-need if I'm at funeral home A and want to transfer to funeral home B?
Occasionally, because there may be a new funeral home in town and someone goes to a service there and they see the job that they're doing and like the facilities, or may know the funeral director that's moved from
Sure.
A to B,
Right.
and trust him, and then they feel a calling. So
Sure.
I kind of see funeral directors in the same parallel as ministers. It's a calling for these people.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a job. It is definitely a calling.
Mm-hmm. And clearly no one wants unfortunately, no one wants a job. They really want a calling.
That
Folks
is true.
are yearning for that.
Yes.
They need
So
to feel that.
they want somebody they can trust, somebody that will take care of their mom and dad,
Right.
and do a good job, taking care of their loved
And
ones.
speaking of that, is it most common to plan for mom and dad, or do you see folks oftentimes? Is that the most common?
That happens a lot. It kind of runs in several different areas. A lot of times a couple will retire and we'll see them come in wanting to take care of everything.
Right.
The biggest question I always heard was, is this respectable? We want to do something respectable. Here again, they're controlling what they want and the money they want spent.
Mm-hmm.
The second phase would be someone coming in for mom or dad, where it's come time, sadly, to put mom or dad in a nursing home. That's when we start to see the parents, the children come in for the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've seen people come in and do it for their children, totally unknown that by their children at that point in time, and vice versa, children come in and take care of it.
I was about to ask how I'd go about to pre-plan, let's say my daughter who's 5, if I wanted to begin laying that out now. Are there some advantages to pre-planning for a child that young?
Yeah. Generally, most companies will not take a pre-need until they're about 21.
Is that right? Okay, good.
But
good.
Here again, people have children in college and whatever. But yes, you can, as long as you have the right to insure, which you have
Very important, yes.
kinship or something of that nature.
A lot of folks, and you may not be the best person to talk to, Al, but you deal with a lot of funeral homes around the Carolinas.
Right.
What does it cost to plan for a funeral today, Al?
That's probably the first question you get when people realize what I do for a living, or a funeral director. What's it cost today? And I always use the analogy, it's kind of like going out shopping for a car. If you're looking for a Cadillac, it costs X amount of dollars.
Right.
If you're looking for a Volkswagen, then that's the difference. your best bet is to go in, again, to a funeral home of your choice and choose exactly what you want, because it's a very personal thing to which casket you may want, which vault you may want, what type of service you want.
Sure.
Full traditional services tend to cost more than cremations, and so there's a lot of
When you
difference.
say a full traditional service, Al, we got about 5 minutes just for viewers who it may be very foreign to them to hear, or they haven't been to many funerals in their lives. Full traditional versus cremation, for instance.
Full traditional to me is where you have a visitation the night before, either at their church or at the funeral home, chapel.
Right.
Next day you have a service and a graveside service.
Okay.
So we would call that a full traditional. Some people choose just to have a graveside service. Other people may choose cremation, but then you have a choice whether you want to have a memorial service with a cremation or how you want to do it. So there is a lot of decisions to be made here.
Okay.
And again, pre-planning takes all that away from the children. They don't have to make all these decisions.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have to worry about paying for mom and dad's service. So it has many, many, many benefits.
And of course, is pre-planning for cremation an option as well? I mean, is that,
yes,
or is it
and
just
a
for
lot of people are confused by that and say, well, I want to be cremated, so I don't need to do anything. But if you plan to be cremated, yes, you need to pre-plan that also, because here again we come down to whether you want a memorial service or whether you want a direct cremation. Basically, what are your wishes at this point in time? So,
very important to go ahead and nail that down anyway.
Yes, right.
Whether you take advantage of Southland National or any
Right.
other insurance provider, it's
Right.
important to go ahead and
So,
nail that down so
yeah.
your loved ones or so you've made that decision. But folks can change their decision later on.
Oh, sure, and they can go back to the funeral home, to the funeral director, and make any adjustments that they feel like they want to change. And you have a lot of times they may go to a service and see something different and decide that's, what they'd like to do.
Do all funeral homes charge the same thing, Al? I should have asked you that earlier when I was
Well,
asking about the
that's
cost and
that's-
why or why not. What is...
That's a good question. No, they don't, because they all have different needs or in different areas and whatever. There are some big consolidating funeral homes out there.
Right.
That tend to charge a little bit more.
Oh,
But
really?
most of your independent funeral homes, even though they don't charge the exact same price, they're probably within a range. So here again, pick the funeral home your choice. Most funeral directors, most funeral home owners will work with their families to make it affordable. But to say each funeral costs $8,000 and you can go anywhere in town and buy one, no. So
Right. That is not
it
the
comes
case.
back to your choice.
So if I have pre-planned, let's say I'm age 50 and I pre-planned for a traditional funeral
Right.
and pay for a plan that would cover a traditional funeral,
Right.
and at age 70 I say, we don't need a traditional full-blown funeral. I'd prefer to just be cremated or
Right, you would go in
cremated.
and make your wishes known at that point.
And would there be an opportunity to get some, I hate to say it, but get some money back? Al, is that...
Yes, there would be.
Right,
So,
yeah.
if the family, most funeral homes will give any leftover money back to the families.
Yeah, not to highlight that,
Yeah,
but it's
but-
important surely for families. I'm sure a lot of them want to know because cremation has become such a popular
Right,
choice. Why do you
it
think
has-
cremation's become so popular?
Several reasons. One may be an economic reason. The other, some people just don't want to go through the full traditional thing.
Right.
A lot of times here again, you have the older people retiring somewhere, and the kids may live up north or whatever. Cremation is simpler for everyone.
Right.
So,
That's fascinating.
Here again, it's a very personal thing, and think of what you want.
Right.
Think of how much you want to spend. Go to who you want to go to,
Yeah.
and you can take care of the whole thing. And most funeral homes will offer you an inflation-proof, guaranteed
That's great.
service.
And Al, what keeps you so motivated in traveling the Carolinas? You're dealing with more than 200, many, many more funeral homes around the Carolinas. What keeps you so motivated?
because it's very interesting. Walk out of one funeral home, walk into another, then you're in totally different situations. 99.9% of the people I deal with are great people to deal with, honest, basic, and even though I'm not working in the funeral home, I feel like I'm doing something to help people, even though it's through the funeral home and through the funeral director.
Through their time of greatest need,
And
absolutely.
So,
Al, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We've
I
run out of
appreciate
time.
you.
Thanks so much for
Okay.
being with us this morning. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Regional Manager Al Burleson, Southland National Insurance Company. Coming up next. You know, I'd like to think of myself as a good interviewer, but there's probably still a heck of a lot more questions I could have asked. You're sitting at home, you wanted to ask Al. You know, we got into what is a pre-need, what are the benefits of pre-planning. You heard him say it, the most frequently asked question he gets and most funeral directors get: how much does a funeral cost today? What are the costs going to be for me? If you want to begin planning now and get a better potential pricing, go ahead and plan it out. Get into the funeral home, as you heard Al say, of your choice, and make these decisions. Team up with somebody. Southland National also has some great frequently asked questions on their website, southlandnational.com. You can read more about the company, probably learn more about some of their tremendous regional managers, just like Al Burleson, making a difference every day. Al, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Appreciate you having me.
Very definitely.